Hey everybody, welcome to episode 145 of the Bonehead podcast, where we talk all things Blood Bowl. And jingle. Welcome back. I'm Ben, and once again I'm joined by Blood Tithe Ben. BT, how you doing?
I'm doing very well. Thanks very much.
Brush Tithe Ben, come on.
No, I like the Blood Tithe pen. It's the name. It's the name. We don't need to shoehorn the branding in. I don't pay you for that.
Not yet. One day maybe. And what do we call you last week that people really seemed to like? Was it the connoisseurs of one? Okay, yeah. We got triple push in the corner and quad skulls right next to me here, which is an interesting one. Trips, how are you? You right?
Very good. Having a relaxing day off, so enjoying myself.
Fantastic. Well, thank you for letting me steal you guys to talk some more Blood Bowl. BT episode 145 is gone. Someone's gone.
Oh, brilliant! Love it.
Ben's gone.
Good start. Well, we're going to be talking about.
We're going to be talking about how rubbish Discord is. That's what we're going to be talking about.
Yeah, it's clearly gone. Yeah, we're going to be talking about playing on stream and all the technical problems that apparently surround that.
Actually, that is a very, very fair point. Okay, and we're back, and we've got Ben back again.
Yeah, I'm back.
I tell you what, that was a heck of a segue into streaming and Blood Bowl. So we're going to talk about the Bonehead Championship, but really, this might be a boring episode for some of you, but I thought it was worth talking about. But like, for the players, the pressure of playing on stream. For the people who are running the stream, the pressure of playing with technology, as Ben has aptly demonstrated, that even though something can be perfectly fine for 100 episodes, you switch it on again and it doesn't work. So we will be talking about that. But first, I know it's only been a week since we recorded the last podcast, but any hobby goodness that you guys have been working on?
Yeah, I've always got an update for this. So yeah, in the past week, I've painted a few things. I painted a couple of star players that popped up on my Instagram, Brush Tide, if you want to follow. And yeah, I was really happy with them actually.
Yes.
Just single stars, and they wanted them kind of like box art style, and one of Wilhelm Chaney I did to a custom scheme. But yeah, I was just it was a nice little palette cleanser to do like a single figure. And yeah, I feel like it was one which I'd painted, and I sort of looked at it and thought, I think I've come quite a long way. Like it's look back on sort of like work 2 years ago to like now, and I think obviously doing it full time is going to make you a bit better. But yeah, no, it was just something which I was really proud of. And I think that's really great about like painting. Like I don't know if you guys find the same in this hobby, but it's just like when you finish something, you're just like, yeah, I love that. You just like looking at it, and you're just like, yeah, I really like it.
I always keep my very first painted Blood Bowl team as a reference point to look back to, and it is a bit cringy looking at it, but it's definitely one of those where it's worth looking back and going, that's quite different. And admittedly, it's like a small slope for me as opposed to the mountain range of skill that you've gained. But
a lot of hours invested.
Come on, 1080p. At least be 1080p. There we go. We can see one of your lads on the back screen here, Ben, from Monday night stream.
It's earlier.
Which
did it on Sunday.
Was absolutely gorgeous. I thought the blending on this dude was fantastic. Like, seriously good. This is the Rodney from Punga.
The Punga one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
really great model, actually.
I love it. Your other one was beautiful as well. I don't have a picture of it finished because it wasn't based. Did you go full base madness like on this one with it?
Yeah. Well, yeah. It kind of. It's it's only tufts, like the sort of how GW do it. I haven't gone quite heavy with the flowers and things like this. But
did you paint the base edge black or brown?
Black, obviously. I'm not a heathen.
I was close. Ben was nearly ejected from the podcast for that one.
When I had to do like that big orc job and they wanted brown rims and I was just crying. And this was also like after 38 hours of painting solidly, and I had to do then the base rims, and I was like genuinely snoozing doing these rims, being like, this is I had to just mentally space out to a different plane. And yeah, the only way I got through that.
I don't have an issue with painting. I don't have an issue with the base rims being brown, as long as the base rim brown is not the same brown as the base coat for the top, because that's
Oh yeah, well,
that's
when
for
it sort
me.
of blends down into.
That's what makes it look unfinished. That's why I don't like. That's why I don't like the brown bases. Like if you use scorch brown on top and bestial brown on back, for those of you painting, since those were actual colours, like that's it's still not good, but it looks better. At least it looks like you've tried and not just sprayed it all brown and agraxed it. Although that is how I paint. Except for my
It's
base
the
rims.
picture frame, isn't it? The base rim is the picture frame for the Mini. So it's like, and black makes good picture frames. So
Oh, I've just realised that we've got new Rodney and old not Rodney in
There
that
he is,
shot. Oh man, that was quite that's quite an upgrade, Ben. I'm not gonna lie. I think I think it's fair to say that was a bit of an upgrade going from the gold model to the
yeah,
to the painted model. Look at him with his moustache.
I do like the punk one a lot. I like him. I think it's a great option if you don't want to get the forge rod on.
Oh yeah. Oh my god, yeah. Oh my god, yeah. No, that's some very good hobby for you, BT. Trips, any games, any purchases, any painting?
A purchase. There was a
Oh.
pre-order on Saturday. The new Necromunda box came up and was straight in the cart. So looking forward to picking that up next Saturday and delving into the box and starting to go through that.
Is it a 2-weeker?
2-weeker, yeah.
Interesting. I wonder why are they all 2-weekers now, or is that just
Basically everything's a 2-weeker unless it's Black Library now.
Wow. I wonder if that's the fallout from, because that's just a monstrous amount of time, isn't it? 2 weeks.
Yeah, I think that I wouldn't be surprised if it's a lot of it's due to the stock issues they had getting it out to stores, and then the feedback of there's nothing worse than people pre-ordering and coming for collection and going, no, we have not had our GW delivery yet.
Okay, well, you know what? That's the problem. It leaves a long time for buyer's remorse.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, for sure. And for people to come up with 3D printed alternatives.
Yeah. Although it's quite nice when you get the email from Entoyment on the Friday night going, your order is ready for collection tomorrow morning. I'm like, I can't remember what was in my order. How many other things fell in the basket?
Yeah.
The Necromunda box does look very, very good. Did you watch the GMG review?
I haven't watched it yet. I was saving that for this afternoon.
It's yeah, it looks good. It looks really good. It looks like a really good game set. I love the spirers. They like at first they were like, oh, they've jazzed these up significantly, but they so much. They really smack of like the old 90s. No, they're allied with Van Sar, but they used to be their own thing, and now in this box it's
cool.
some spirers linking up with the Van Sar boys, and the Van Sar themselves are very cool. Like, and the Steelers are pretty cool. Like,
Gene Steelers pretty good. They do.
I even like the goofy like cultist dudes.
Yeah,
I like that they are very retro.
He does look like a Halloween character who just went out with a slightly dodgy rubbery mask.
The only downside I've heard about this box is that the boards are actually just poster paper.
Yeah, it's so always the Necromunda boards now have been like poster paper for the last couple, so you can use several boxes together, and there's not a lot of terrain in this box. But if you are a Necromunda player or a 3D printer, you do not have a problem with terrain access.
Yeah, and where you've got like the cutout areas, I suppose it's kind of like a dungeon map all by itself, isn't it? Which I think that makes it pretty decent to play. I would hope anyway. I do like the idea of Necromunda. Right, hobby bits for me. If they dropped the Spira Gang, I probably would have just got really excited and ordered it all. But because they didn't drop the Spira Gang, I was able to just be like, well, we'll just wait. We'll just wait, which is very good for me. And then I remembered about building Games Workshop plastic models and how I've still got the Gnome team sitting right there because Milton and Ben built the studio one, and then Ben painted the studio one. And I'm like, okay, well, I can just spray something else brown and agrax it. Although my new favourite colour is Grim Black from the Army Painter speed paint stuff. Oh, it's magnificent. a white primer, paint it over there. It just there's just something about it that just looks really good as a real like nice basis for painting. I suppose it's probably not much different than spraying it black and giving it a dry brush, except you just literally use the dropper to drop it on top of the model, use the brush to spread it down. It's a great way to get. So I've painted some OPR stuff ready for our game day on Saturday, and when I say painted, I mean painted it with grim black, and I did a little bit of purple, but I've realized that there's no chance I'll have that have models painted for that. But I've printed 2 little forces ready for us to use on Saturday, because I'm very
really nice. I was well excited to see those when I went on the stream, because I haven't really properly seen the OPR stuff as an army before, so seeing it all together, it does look really good.
It does.
The models are very good. They're not like Archvillain Games or Art. No, what's the Russian one that you like, Ben?
Oh, what, Artel?
Yeah, it's not like A+ sculpting, but it's like A level sculpting. It's as good / better than Games Workshop in a lot of cases, but they're designed to print really, really well and paint really, really well. It's as if Punga was doing armies.
Yeah, it is very similar, isn't it?
It's perfect, and they print so easy that we've got the Shadow Stalkers there, we've got the Vampire Undead there, we've got the Lizardmen there, and I've got some Dwarves up here, although they're Titanforge. Because I've put up loads of shelves.
No.
Which has been pretty cool.
After our hobby day, we might have 4 3D printers a little bit busy on
Brewing
Sunday.
up a treat. I think there might be a chance of that. I'm hoping that the games will be good fun, and then we'll be like, oh, rabbit hole much. Because I don't know, there's something about it, and I think Trips, we always talk about this when there's a pre-order, right? It's that excitement, it's that anticipation. It's like, ooh, the possibilities of new. Even if it doesn't really lead into anywhere. But no, that's some cool stuff. So we'll be talking about that on the next pod, how our OPR day went, just for a little bit of change. But otherwise, any hobby nuggets for you guys, or should we jump into tech and stress?
Let's jump in.
All right, so we are 8 weeks into the Bonehead Championship. So what we got? We've got 12 regular season games, then 4. So we are over. We've reached the halfway point, and we kind of thought it'd be cool to check in, because obviously there's no real Games Workshop news, although Trips did point out they dropped an article on playing Wood Elves.
Yeah.
With a top 5 Wood Elf star player thing, which I thought was quite funny, because who could afford star players? Yeah.
Nobody.
I mean, some people like to run the Zote as a bit of extra muscle. Some people like to run Glorial as a bit of air game. That's kind of, I think, your only choices, and those are kind of meme lists. But anyway, that's a bit of an aside. We thought we'd check in, talk about how the championship is going, and then talk about sort of the challenges of making Blood Bowl content, and the tech issues. So, I mean, first things first, you've both been on most of the actual games. Are you enjoying yourself, first of all?
Immensely. It's we definitely said it before, where this has been really good for just playing Blood Bowl again, and I think we'll touch on it as one of the reasons why what playing on stream is like, but we just have fun, and that's just so refreshing to just sort of roll dice with mates and not care about the outcome, because the outcome is not really the point. The story is as interesting to us as it is to everyone watching. We don't know where it's going to go, and that's just really fun. And to sort of have just let the game take the reins and see what happens. It's so much fun.
Definitely, I think it's, and doing it with the stream and with the chat, it's like playing at a tournament where it's not an uber sweaty game, top table game, but you've got 6 or 7 people gathered around chatting about what you're going to do in detail. So it is really good fun, and it's settled in really nicely. It's, I think, something we all very much look forward to Mondays now, which is definitely changed the week.
But I know, I genuinely do. I haven't looked forward to Mondays this much since we used to have Monday Night Magic. But even before Wobble, we'd get together every Monday, and it was like, right, you have the weekend, and then you're like, oh, I've got work, and then you're like, oh, actually, let's just get through work because I've got a thing tonight, and it warms it up, and I absolutely love it, because it means there's a purpose to be going to the studio on a Monday morning, is turn on my work laptop, attend work, and switch on the PC and then do some of the tech testing that happens. And, you know, thanks to both of you guys in a billion different ways, like the pre-season, as I'm going to call it, had its up and downs technologically wise. Most of the series has had not a lot of issues, except with the exception of like a camera switching off or a random. I think we've had a couple of random audio issues, but
Yeah.
we are being more diligent, more diligent now with our pre-game audio checks. But I mean, we'll talk cameras first before we talk about actually playing on there. But like, it is really interesting, and I often think about this, Trips, like when you watch all the NFL coverage and stuff like that. Given that I guarantee you everything is connected by cables, and the issues that we have are generally speaking that this USB cable just warms itself up a little bit and then just loses connectivity or something like that. Like, you never really see it in prime broadcasts.
You never do, but maybe it's that they've got so many cameras in detail that they can get round it.
It happens. They just switch the camera.
Yeah. You
So
just
if one fails, they can just instantly just be like, yeah, new camera. They dance around different perspectives all the time because I'm sure there's going to be cases where microphones cut out and you just don't see it.
And I think we are tied to the fact that effectively, however much we've spread stuff out, it is all one big interconnected system. So it is possible to get fails and details, and yeah, there aren't 25 different cameras. There's about 7, but they're all fixed to a job as well. So we don't have, like, the dice cam goes down, there isn't a backup for the dice cam. It's rolling on the board.
Yeah, there is.
Yeah,
6.
it's also worth it is worth pointing out as well, is like with a lot of productions, even for like esports and things like that, like there are teams of experienced people behind the scenes handling it all. And for us, we're 3 inexperienced people with only 1 person doing the operating because 2 people are playing the game. So it's like it's things are gonna happen, and we are learning. Like, obviously we're learning a lot, I think, and I think it's going to improve as well. So
it will definitely improve. I think one of the hardest things I'm struggling with in this series is that we've committed to a look and a style for the season, and we're halfway through. We've learned a lot of stuff, and I'm like, I'm not going to change anything. Like, I want the season to look and feel the same the whole way through, which means we're kind of banking lessons and banking on things that we can do up and change. So you mentioned there that there's not a backup for the dice cam. Well, actually, I want to upgrade and replace the dice cam, but I don't want to do it during the season. Like, you know, Caron got us the cool dice tray made up. I want to see if we can use that instead. But again, I don't want to do it mid-season because we've got it in a good flow, and I don't want to change too much, because that was one of the mistakes I think we made in the first Bonehead Championship. Was I got very excited by cameras, by overhead cameras, and then there was that one random game in the season, everything else was point of view cam, and then all of a sudden one game was overhead because I was like, oh, we can do overhead now, let's do that. And it was like, it was just broke up the vibe. And also, you know, we want to add over the shoulder cam potentially. Again, not going to do that during the season. Quite frankly, I'd be lucky if I get time to build the pitch during this season. But like, there's definitely things we want to do like that. But like, I think the audio is in a pretty good place thanks to UBT. The PC doesn't.
Still bits that can improve. But
yeah, and you know, we it's in a good place.
It's in a good place. Yeah, it's not perfect yet.
And
I think we've developed that. There's 2 levels of what we've called leveling up that we've seen from during the pre-season into the season. So first is the techs got a lot better, and thank you for all of those of you that stuck with us during the pre-season games when we played Blue Screen from Hell. Trip out, which was always interesting. But I think the production side of the streams has also leveled up. I mean, we've firstly found that if we dust cameras, they get a lot more clarity. Little thing like that. But also, and you've seen this, Ben, from the work you're doing almost behind the cameras during it, is the transitions and the shots and the flow and having the videos. It's all much more of a production now, as opposed to here are 3 cameras connected together and off we go.
And I think we've always had this really interesting thing where we get some comments from people being like, I mean, I will never forget when we did was the vampire stream trips. You had you and Ian, and someone in the chat was like, "Why haven't you tested this beforehand? Like, aren't you guys supposed to be professional?" So we were like, "No,
No.
we're just geeks. We like
We were
playing Blood
building
Bowl.
it 10 minutes before we started.
We're doing this in my dining room." Like,
Yeah.
and now we're not. You know, now we've got fixed point cameras, but it is still very much like Ben said, like there are professionals who do this, and then there are us trying to do the absolute best we can do. And I'm really proud of the way it looks and the way it flows. The games have been phenomenal, and and that has just been so much fun. And Trips, you mentioned like looking at top table and having a few people crowded around. Well, it's somewhere between 100 and 200 people every week will join us, and we'll be in chat talking and watching the game live, and then we get, you know, people watch afterwards, which is fantastic. But it's that gathering around, that like actual the chat talking, and it is just phenomenal. How much does that play on your guys' mind when you are playing the game, that there are, you know, hundreds of people watching as you're going?
I think when it started, like this is probably years ago now, like it was something that was a consideration of just like really worried about judgment. But now I kind of forget it's there a lot of the time until like you say like the every 4 turns you check in with chat, and the idea that someone might enjoy this, like it's not something I worry about. Like it's, you know, we make mistakes, we're human. But I think it's just like I don't do anything differently, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like I don't change the way I play really. Okay, I don't play like a tournament play, because like tournament style play is just not very interesting a lot of the time. So like I'll make a play that's more interesting, but that's for the stream. It's not really so much for the live chat that's there. But it's just kind of fun just to hear like people commentate. Like that's just fun.
Yeah, I don't think I play differently. I know that the way I play must tilt some of our viewers. I think my use of big guys early in turns that have loners is probably something that makes people twitch heavily.
I've stopped caring.
But I don't think it makes a difference. Yeah, I think the thing with the championship that really helps is we're playing a core set of teams, and when before we were playing one-off games,
Yeah.
we'd often be playing a team we may never have played with before. We're really getting to know the plays and the teams and the skills much more, and that really does help. I think that helps us play better, but I'm sure it helps from a viewing point of view, lots less going, what does this positional do?
I mean, that's a cracking point there, that we have had comments in the past, and we still get them every now and again, like, why have you done this? Like, I don't understand why you did it in that way.
It's a bad play. Yeah.
Yeah, like, and you know, I think we talked about this when we talked about leveling up, right? There are certain levels, and when you get to a certain point in Blood Bowl and you watch somebody else run your team, and you're like, what are you doing? Why are you not doing this? Like, what is going on? I get like it sometimes when I watch a Magic stream or something, and they're doing a draft, and I'm like, how have you picked that? Like, what are you doing? Like, how have you done that? But you know, to your point, Trips, there's 30 teams in Blood Bowl, and if all of a sudden you're playing a team, you get like a couple of days notice sometimes, like tops. And maybe you like go look at the roster, like when Craig came on the other week, because it's been really cool having Warhammer and Comeback Craig, aka Raisin Horse, on the stream. Has been really cool, and they've both gone, right, who am I facing? What's my team? And Craig, I think you saw Trips. He had his little
What is crib notes?
crib notes with some setups and stuff. And that was the first time he's ever played OWA, and knowing OWA, it's probably the first time he's ever played against OWA. And it's definitely like, that's why I like this, is because I can play Skaven, and I've played hundreds of games of Skaven, and I can play them quite well. I can play them fast or loose, like, but I really relish the challenge of, okay, it's going to be this team. And when you come to the championship like this, it's this team, and Ben, it's in this state. Like you had this week with your Amazons. Now, no spoilers, but you're setting up your Amazon team. You've got 3 journeymen, like, and you're playing against another team with one of the big guys out. And it's like, well, you've never played that game before. You know,
No.
you may have played against Amazons a couple of times. You may have played with them once on stream, but like,
Certainly not played with them against gnomes.
yeah,
Yeah.
against them with gnomes, with a star player, one big guy out,
Yeah.
and 3 of your players out. Like each individual game is a real unique moment in time and trips. This is something that again harkens back to the NFL. Like you always think about which team was best, but there's so much churn with NFL teams. Like you can have a great team one year, they can lose some players, and then it's just garbage the next year, or it takes some time to learn. And there's never any repetition. And this is, I think, something that is very bold when it comes to tabletop Blood Bowl in a league. Is like every team is always developing. That bits are missing, bits are growing. So each individual game is going to be very different. So how do you guys manage that coming in on a random Monday night? You know, we do book in which teams you're playing ahead, and we try and make sure that you know which players have got. Like, what goes through your mind? Like when it comes to prep, do you bother? Are you not bothered? Like, what goes through your head when you're like, right, this week I'm playing gnomes against Amazons? What do you think?
I don't know about trips, but I do nothing. I think nothing goes through my head.
Scale here. We call it the Benedict scale.
Yeah, just no thoughts, head empty. I just rock up and I'm almost surprised to see what's in front of me. Yeah, like I don't know. There's no other way to say it. It's like I don't really think about it. I just go and have the most authentic, natural experience playing games with friends I can, because I think that's just what makes for an entertaining stream, in my opinion.
So it's slightly different position for me, and I'm less of a consistent player, so I need to, from my point of view, I can't remember the stats and the details of all the players and the positionals. So particularly for a newer team, I like to know the team and have the play in the style. And a good example is that the game in the background is the Vampires. That was the first time I've played with Vampires. I've played against them quite a few times on
Yeah,
the
you have.
stream, and I've seen different people play them. So actually, just having some crib notes of what the vamps did, basically the different positionals, was quite useful. But for me, I ironically watched Ben play with Vampires, who played against me in the previous round, just for a little bit of, this is how you use them in detail, mainly because I've never played with Hypnotic Gaze before. I was like, I really need to figure out this skill and how you're going to use it. But after probably 2 dice rolls, you're in the game and you're playing the game, and you can't actually do too much prep, because Ben won't do what I want him to do and never does the same thing twice.
Goes out the window and you double skull the first block, and then yeah.
So one thing I think we have seen in almost every game is, we've talked about it, it's kind of become a little catchphrase, right? You play to your outs. You always, because there is going to be a moment that spikes, and that I think has been the theme of this season, is that okay, you only need 2 pivotal rolls to go your way and things change. And we've seen it. We've played 8 games, and I don't know, 3, 4, 5 games have had a couple of successive pivotal rolls go one way or another that has massively changed it. And when it's a team that's not your team, when it is a team that you are playing for the sake of the narrative of the season, do you play differently in that mindset? I mean, Ben, you've already said no, but like, is there more of a strategic goal instead of a tactical goal? Because like when I run a league team, I wouldn't necessarily YOLO blitz stuff. Because we've had Rick on the channel a couple of times, and he's really enjoyed playing some tournament stuff, because he's a high edge player. He loves his elf teams, and he loves playing in a tournament because I can just take the 5+ cage dive, and if it dies, I know I'm not going to have 4 journeymen for my next game. It's going to be all right. When you are in your kind of headspace of this league, is that as much of a consideration as to if you were piloting your same team every 2 weeks in a standing league?
I absolutely don't think it's the same. Like, as in, like, this is like, these are expendable, and because it's more interesting. if they die, it's more interesting. It's like, it's not my problem playing with them next time, and it's just gonna develop a narrative that we're having. Like, if that really valuable blitz or whatever goes out, awesome, that's a story. They're in therapy now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they'll be
I think-
replaced.
Yeah, I think there is definitely a little bit more of that tournament feel to the way we're playing the games. Of we will play them right to the end and detail. I mean, we've yet to have a game where you get to the second half and go, well, we'll just play these turns through for the sake of playing these turns through.
No spoiler
think
alert,
only-
but the OWA game, OWA Goblins with Craig and Ian the other week, as the stream man, I was thinking, this is going to be quick, and it was not. It was epic.
Yes.
So you're exactly right, Trips. Like we haven't had that dead game moment. Even if a coach tries to camp and sit in their backfield and smash tiny people for a while, it's never over.
I need to win.
Yeah, or stall before scoring, because it's like, I can score in turn 8. There'll be no issue here.
I'll roll both these dice at the same time. Like, but I love that because like you're not throwing the game, and I think this is something that people get. Not very many people, but some people will watch it and they'll be like, "You should have just done this instead. It's much safer." But we don't throw the games away, but because it's fun, because like Ben said, you know, you're here to have a fun game with your friends, and also 160 people live. Like, all right, so there's an 80% likelihood of this one, or there's a 70% likelihood of this one. Well, do you know what? That's interesting for the same reason it's kind of we've gone in with the ethos for the entire championship, right? Of we've taken positionals that you potentially wouldn't prioritize. So the vampires, we've taken a blitzer instead of a second thrower to start out, and we've got the Varg. No matter what, you know, your mileage may vary on that. We've got a big guy in almost every team. When it comes to the OWA, we've included the dwarf blockers, like because we want to play it out, like because there is no perfect setting. Like perfect set piece Blood Bowl is boring. Like it is. And changing it up and trying out new players and new teams and new coaches, I think is just a really interesting way. And what you guys have done is you do seem to take the slightly lower floor, higher ceiling plays because it's fun. And I think there's a lot of people that are like very much on board with that. And me being principle on them, when I'm calling it, I'm like, no, he's going to go for the big play here. And sometimes it works and it's like epic, and sometimes it fails, and you know what, that's epic too. And it's just so much fun. And I'm just gushing now over our own series. But
something I wanted to touch on is you mentioned like the mentality of like sort of losing key players and like how that affects. And I think a big difference of it is often when you're playing in like a league, I think online and stuff it's usually fine because you're tilted anyway, but when you play in like an in-person league, it can be a bit disheartening to know that you have to like travel for your game night, and you might have a team that's been like busted up and you're going against like 1700 TV orcs or something, and then you've got like your destroyed.
I will take a buy, please.
Yeah, and you just sort of like, you know, you're just going to rock up, lose, and go home, and you're kind of just like, why are we even bothering? But like when we're coming here, it's like we're making a video. It's awesome. Like we have the opportunity now to just try stuff and see what can happen. And when the way we structure this league, we're never going to get into those instances anyway. So like because we have control over all the teams that are in here, we're never going to run into these weird matchups that just don't feel fun off the bat, you know.
And it is competitive fun, not just competitive play. I think we saw it a couple of weeks ago where we were like, that's the end of the game, absolutely detailed. It was like, hang on a second, haven't we got a turn
Isn't
16?
there one more turn? Yeah.
Which you may have forgotten to say in a league night. You'd be like, I'll take the win and I'm going home.
Yeah.
So we see if this can play through.
I like that. It's competitive fun. That's
absolutely.
That's good. And it is quite funny because we look at this distributing the teams, and actually you guys have done a really good job of sharing the wealth a little bit. Like, okay, I played with this team and I won with it, so I'll swap. Like, I lost with this team, so let's swap teams. And I think that's been really good to balance it out and spread it. But something I have really enjoyed is like building a little bit, not a permanency, but a little bit of a narrative with certain teams that do well or do perform. So Warhammer coming on the channel and running goblins, having an outrageous game, and then us being like, right, so you're playing with goblins the rest of the season, I think creates a good little narrative. And also, well, until round 3, Trips, you running the double dipping with the lizards was very cool. It was. How do you feel handing the lizards over to BT now as for next week's game?
I'm hoping he'll do them the justice they've deserved, and I think it'll be fun. I think it'll be interesting to see. I think I've seen a lot from how other people play with the team. You just played with them. It's actually really good learning for me. So I think they're in that case they were in a good place, the lizards. So they were in a good place.
They're not in such a great place. They've got 6 Saurus in the crops now, but Yoshi's out, and you've only got only 4 skinks. So there is definitely a potential for them to just get ruffle stomped.
To be fair, Yoshi being out is probably Ben's own fault.
Yeah, that's true. That is my fault.
It's the circle of killing.
Actually, no, I'm pretty sure you tripped up with him.
I'm pretty sure you stacked him into the ground, Trips.
I don't even touched him.
I think Ben would have tried, but I don't think you gave him the shot. I think that was a heck, wasn't that?
Funny enough, I'm thinking about it. I don't think I've ever played with lizard men. I'm trying to wonder if it would have been on the channel if I have, because I definitely haven't.
Let's get bets in now. Ben, never having played against lizardmen, playing against Warhammer with goblins, who, quite frankly, bless him, seems to be the ultimate wild card.
I quite like that we have Ian just coming along as this little goblin that interferes with the league. Like, it's just like, actually, we've got. Oh, here's the goblin again.
He's like a house robot.
With his purple lights as well. He's like,
I'm gonna have a real creative decision to make here, whether I kick you out of the red corner and make it purple again, or just put Ian in it.
That would be on brand.
No, you can have the red corner. We'll make the blue corner the purple corner this time for the goblins. But I mean, we've played 8 games, and each of the teams has only played 2 games now. But it really does feel like, because I think we've shared the narrative, like it feels like they've been around a lot more than just 2 games. Which is just so good, and something you mentioned a minute ago, like about picking up the pieces from another game and how it's not reflecting on you, because actually I think if you ran a team and they got destroyed while you ran the team, and then you were forced to run them again, it might be a little bit like, oof, I'm not playing 2 games now. And I think this is where the league mentality comes in. It's like, I'm playing one very long bad game. Like, because I lost those players in the first half of the first game, and they are still out in the first half of the second game. When it comes to league play, that can be quite egregious. Ding. But where you kind of share it up, it's pretty good. However, what you just said, Ben, about like, Amazons, you will never find a play guide, and you will very rarely find an example of play that kind of gives you that angle, right? Like these situations are developing organically, and it can be really beneficial. I mean, Trips, you said it as well, see how different people play a team, but like, oh, actually, I'm 3 players out, this is going to be horrific, to, do you know what? The other night on Monday Night Blood Bowl, that team was 3 down, and actually, it made them play this way, and it was fine. Like, there are ways to play it, and it's still a game, and there's still ways to come around it, which I think is something that you certainly don't see. And when we do, our set piece things, you never have that death legacy. I mean, the Black Orcs have been awesome this season, but they've had Black Orcs out every flipping game, and they're still pounding face, and it's really quite good, because you think, right, how am I going to play with Black Orcs, Strips? I've got 6 Black Orcs and a troll. Well, you don't actually. For this game, you've only got 4 Black Orcs.
And I saw it this week a lot with turning up and playing gnomes with only 1 tree. It's like, that's
huge.
An entirely different way, and it's like, I've never thought about playing gnomes with 1 tree, and let's put it this way, I would not choose to do it.
You wouldn't want to do it again.
Yeah, and 1 tree is good, but when you've got 1 tree, that sort of draws some attention. So
yeah, because a bit of a target.
And it got to see what the gnomes do on their own as well.
Yeah, I mean, the tree is very important to gnomes, at the scale of which I don't think any other team potentially struggles with. Like halflings, even if they've got no trees, they have always got a star, like a chunky combat star. Whereas the gnomes, because they're 40k, they've got high team value for a stunty, so they don't get to fudge in a third tree or a griff or anything like that. They're playing with low-end stars, which I do think is quite interesting. But like you said, if if 2 trees becomes 1 tree, it is not a massive stretch of the imagination to think of a situation where 1 tree becomes no trees. And
Yes.
that, like the drop-off of that, was interesting. And if you haven't seen the game from this week, do definitely go back and watch it, because there are 3 teams played during that match. There's gnomes, there's Amazons, and then there's half gnomes,
Yeah.
with no big guys, which is a pretty chunky boy. So we've talked tech, we've talked some stuff that, you know, has gone well, it's not gone well. God, we had this from the podcast like for ages. You turn up and something that's been plugged in and working fine will just all of a sudden not be. But one thing I want to talk about is content for other games, because I've personally never watched a series done by another channel. I know that they're out there that links what's happening between the games quite so much. I've seen like this narrative campaign of this, or you know, I will watch some 40k content sometimes. Is it Play on Tabletop?
They do good 40k.
Yeah.
games.
Who does the 40k in 40 minutes? Is that them?
There's them, yeah.
Yeah, I'll watch a bit of that, and I watch a little bit of Tabletop Tactics sometimes. But all of that content, like that you see out there, is matched play, because I guess that's the standard for playing. And I mean, what are your thoughts on match play content versus this long form LinkedIn game content?
I think a lot of people like the match play stuff. There's obviously the market for it, and that's what people ask for. I know like Mini Wargaming did a lot of the like narrative campaigns you mentioned, like historically, but that was more like DM'd, like it was like a bit different. But I think a lot of people like to see it because I think the main demographic for those, especially like 40k, is probably tournament players and people who play like quite seriously. I think when people play casually, they tend to they tend to just play their games casually anyway, and it doesn't link in the same way that Blood Bowl inherently does with the league. I think that's a big difference. Is like League Blood Bowl already is an ongoing story, so I think people relate to what we're doing because we're playing Blood Bowl. Like we're playing a League Blood Bowl. It's how the game is. Whereas 40k, the games don't really link inherently in the rules, unless you're doing a crusade or something. There might be channels that do that.
I've not hit that. That's not spiked its way onto my YouTube feed. And I did wonder.
The closest current one I can think of is have you seen Games Night? It's the Yogscast. They made a board games channel, and they do really great.
Because they did 40k on there when 10th came out.
Yes, they did. Yeah, they've done a lot of like bolt action and stuff as well. But they're a really good example of like taking a game and just having fun with it, and like not really playing it properly. Like being this is our game. We're gonna do what we want to do, and we're gonna do this made up rule set. We're gonna introduce characters that shouldn't be here and things like that. And they just have fun. And I think that's a really good example of that.
And we see if people are looking for certain things, the match play videos work really well because you're looking for effectively the I want to see 1200 Norse play 1100 dwarfs. Okay, that there's a specific video on that. But I think because we're doing it live once a week and that theme, it is much more like a normal sports league where you're seeing the league evolve over time and detail and the stories behind it. And as you said, Blood Bowl does lend itself to that environment. So hopefully people are along the journey with us rather than I'll just watch the one game I want to watch.
That was going to be where I was going, like because of the sports angle. Like it is a sports game, and I think that's just so well woven into the rules of Blood Bowl and like the core of Blood Bowl and the RPG advancement elements of the game, that it really blends itself well for that. But all the other games, like you just said, Trips, it tends to be a menu. Like if something pops up, it's like, oh, okay, do I want to see how Nurgle play against this team? I don't really like Nurgle, don't really like watching them, and I'm not overly fussed by nobility, so I'll skip that game. Like when it comes on the 40k channels, like I think in fact a game popped up earlier that was Sigmar, so after that, you know, Nighthaunt versus Disciples of Tzeentch. I'm like, no. Or New Army, Black Templars versus Necrons. I'm like, not really fussed by that army, but like it's a weird one to like have. But I know that those games are now available, and it's really interesting because if you look at like 40k, even Sigmar and Blood Bowl, 30 armies in each, 30 teams in each, potentially. Maybe Sigmar's got less because blah. But like, 30 teams playing against 30 teams. That's what, 900 combinations.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not.
And those teams are never going to be the same teams, even if they are like the same matchup.
Yeah, I love the iterations there, but I often wonder how big like you could go with doing just one game a week. And this is kind of a bit of a creative conversation now, because I hope you don't mind, but like, we've got 8 teams in this league, and in the previous ones we've had less. We've had 5 in 7 Super Series, 5 or 6, and then we had 6, I think, in the last championship. And I was worried that only one game a week per team would slow down the narrative, because I thought, well, people are going to identify with a team. Like, they're going to be like, well, I like this team and I like this team, and that's only 2 games a month I'm particularly interested in watching. It doesn't feel like that's happened. It feels like we do see comments like, I don't really I can't remember which, I think it was Gnomes versus Amazons. There was a couple of comments in chat like, not a big fan of Amazons, not a big fan of Gnomes, but I want this team to win. And it was interesting. I wondered if you guys had any thoughts on just like whether we've got too many teams, whether the frequency is too much, too little, just on your thoughts of that, having played the games and having sort of interacted with Discord and our chats and stuff.
Yeah.
So I think the big difference for me is the frequency. It's a regular thing. It is Monday night. It is that there is a real drumbeat about the league. So actually, it doesn't feel like too many teams in anywhere at all, because it's Monday night. There is a game on, and yes, Gnomes Amazons might not be your top team that you want to see, but it's going to be a maximum of 2 to 3 weeks until you see the team you really want to again. And I think that's the story we're seeing evolve through it, and people go from week to week, and also that the viewer interaction, because the viewers and how they give out the MVPs is making a significant difference to the teams and the development as well.
That might be my favourite thing about this, is the fan favourite MVP and the cheering fans live. Although we will change up, because that's a bit OP at the moment. We've had some great suggestions to like, okay, give the fan favourite a chance to +1 instead, or give them a chance to roll 2 dice and take the highest instead of just being automatic reroll, which I think is really good and is one of the things we noted down to take forward into the next season or something like that. Maybe.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
But yeah, any thoughts on like teams, speed, tempo, Ben?
I think where we're at is like, I think we're at a really good spot. I think if it's too few, we end up with it just being a bit too small, and like the same teams end up playing each other because you're kind of capped at 3. But 6 is also good, and I think if we had more, we'd risk forgetting about what happened, because already we're at a kind of a point where I'm just like, who did this team play last time? But then it's easy to remember because it's only about like 3 weeks ago. So it's like, I think that's a really good spot. So I think with the 6 teams, it's perfect. I don't think that needs to change much, in my opinion.
We do have 8, but yeah.
Oh, do we? Oh.
It used to be 6.
Oh, well, there you go. Yeah,
it's now right. 6 might be the sweet spot for Ben. There's 2 teams he's forgotten about in this league. It's like, no,
we are
blanking that game out.
In my head.
Yeah, we're inside that month's rotation for everything, where it's like, this team will be on, and already we're like, we've still got 1 game left in the round, and we're already thinking about the next round of the matchups and how they play. So
I did say earlier, head empty, no thoughts. I go into it surprised to see what's in front of me. So it shows.
Ben is like, right, pressure is off here. I turn up, I roll outrageous dice.
Yeah.
I refuse to not use the purple ones, and then I go home.
Yeah, I just say, do you need anything painted for next week? Cool.
And that is a slight aside of the way we're playing that makes it just really good fun. Because other than Ben having to paint up a star player every week because he keeps murdering people, it literally is for Ben and I, the most complicated thing is where we're going to park. Not what team do I have to take? What's the roster? What do I need a pitch? Are there dice? Everything else. It's literally like, I've just got to turn up.
Which is thanks to Ben. A lot of that is thanks to Ben, who does a lot of the hard work behind
you guys did so much of the legwork, like getting it all set up and trips. We've got your computer being the hub which is a monstrous improvement on my Alienware laptop that just cannot handle 7 different USBs going into it at one point. You know, which is that was one of the entertaining things. Was I bought a nice shiny laptop to do the streaming, and then I pushed it too far. And then, you know, I love the way it's coming together at the moment. I know there's some stuff that we could learn and from a tech point of view do better. The audio is interesting, Ben, because I think the environment will cap a lot of it.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of what I had with the audio was when we initially did the full setup, one of the mics didn't work properly. So I had boosted gain to compensate for it, and I never switched it back. So that's where we've got these gain boosted mics that seem to pick up all the clacks and clicks that are going around. So all I need to do is have a little tweak. So I'll spend some time before the next one, I think.
Do not get rid of dice noise. Like, dice noise is so important.
Minimize, yeah.
You need the dice noise.
Yeah, it should be fine. Should be fine. But that's all it is with that.
I do wonder about my neighbours. Like, see, there's always a scream at 10 o'clock.
Screaming as you roll the dice is much more fun.
Yeah,
yeah, can't gate out if we're talking. Wicked. I do think 8 is a sweet spot. I do think 3 rounds is normally way too short for a league, but with the extra MVP from the fan favourite, it's allowing teams to develop in a way that you would want them to, but just probably like, you know, a little bit of a faster clip. So when we get to the end of 3 games, the teams have probably got 4 games worth of SPP or something like that, and we've got more interesting interactions to be like, yeah, this is how this player plays out with block. Like, you know, gnomes, like, you know, they've got dodge players now. Okay, we're going to start seeing how that player goes, which I think is going to be really useful to people watching if they're particularly interested in running Amazons. Okay, well, we'll go back and watch the championship, watch the Amazon games, because you're going to learn some things about, okay, this skill is good on this player. This is what you do when there are 3 players out. These are some good moves. These are some bad moves. And it's just kind of experience. Because one thing that is hilarious is that there's no tape to watch on Blood Bowl trips. Like in sports, you go and you watch tape on the team, and there's not a huge amount of tape for you to study, but there is starting to be so now.
There is starting to be some, and I think the one thing I've seen through the championship is I think Ben and I are getting to know each other as coaches a lot better.
yeah.
I know I'm
That's
starting to know what Ben will do. It's not making any difference me being able to stop it, but I'm starting to go, he will do this no matter what I'm doing. I'm trying my best to stop it. This is going to happen. So I think that's helping with the games as well, because where we might not know the teams as well, we're starting to
Know the players.
develop as coaches against each other quite well, and we seem to have play styles that mix and match quite nicely. Of neither of us really fancies a 1-0 grind for 16 turns.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Well, last game.
Because it won't happen. Because it won't happen. I guess the last thing on my list of things to talk about is just we have streamed tournaments in the past, and we might do it again. We might not. I like the idea of it, but the execution of it is miserably difficult, I think, you know. And when you are on stream, when you are playing on stream, what do you guys think? Do you think you make more mistakes, or do you just think you see the mistakes that you would normally make that no one else would pick up on? Because we get this in stream where the guys are like, oh, don't forget this, you didn't roll loner, or that guy's not quite in the right square, or something like this, or you didn't, you know, there's always like a thing. It's not massively frequent. It's like once or twice a game. And I think about this, and I think about the top table games that we've played from our tournaments when we've streamed them, and people have missed things, added skills, or on a star player, for example, or missed a nega trait, or missed something like that. Do you think that the pressure of being on stream adds a little bit extra into your mental CPU, or do you think it just shows the stuff that actually happens in every game ever?
I think the latter. I think like initially I thought like there was a lot going on and that was the reason for these. But I'm thinking about it, and after doing it a while, I don't think so. Like I do this all the time. Like I think we're maybe worse at calling out each other for doing it. or not realizing the opponent is doing it, because often when the other person's playing, we might be interacting with the like chatting with you, Ben, or chat
Yeah,
or something like that.
yeah.
I think that's the difference, because usually in like a tournament,
There's nothing
your
else going
opponent
on.
might
It's just
they
you
might
and
miss a tackle zone. You'd
yeah.
be like, "Oh, that's a dodge. You can just take that back," and they'll be like, "Okay, yeah, cool, no thanks, I didn't see that." And I think that happens. But like I make mistakes at tournaments all the time. Where I'm just like, I mean, I did one in the recent tournament where I could have just blocked a skink and tied the game, but instead I just forgot that was there and then lost the game because it just dodged out and scored. So it was like I just chose not to block it because I forgot it was there. So it's like that thing, like those happen all the time. So like I don't think there's much difference, but you also got like 150 eyes on you calling it out. So we don't notice the problems we don't notice, do we? So like, there's going to be mistakes we've made that no one picks up on, and those problems may as well not exist. You know, Schrodinger's problem. So
it's very true, and I've always felt kind of I've felt kind of vindicated when we've done a top table game at the tournament and some stuff's been missed. And I'm like, right, okay, do you know what? These guys are playing in the tournament. They've earned their way. They've won a couple of times. They're on top table at the end of round 3. They know what they're doing. They know what their team is. They know what their opponent's team is. And yet they've missed a thing because, do you know what? Trips, referees in football, they miss things, right?
Well, there's a stat. There's something like most sports referees decisions are about 92% correct, and everyone's like, that's pretty damn good. You think how many decisions you make in a Blood Bowl game?
Yeah.
You're going to make 100 decisions, so you're probably going to make 8 wrong ones, and most of them are little things that are wrong. Occasionally, you miss a tackle zone. Occasionally, you do a lineup wrong, or often you forget a skill, or something like that. I think part of that is definitely, as Ben said, that we're not scrutinizing each other to the nth degree because we are
playing
in
the
that
story as opposed to playing the game at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And also, when we're in the early stages of the teams, you're still learning what the team does. And you're probably still learning what your team does, let alone working out what your opponent's team does as well.
I like that environment because I don't think we're teaching anybody anything wrong. I don't think, because there is a lot of like the let's plays and stuff on the internet where people are like, oh, you can't watch this channel here because they get the rules wrong and you can't learn the game from it. But I think we're at a point now with Blood Bowl in this edition and with like these games in particular where I don't think anyone's watching them to learn the basics of the game. I think it's a really good thing to watch two people just hang out and play a game, and we come across rules interactions and stuff like that, but I think it's a genuinely good representation of what a normal game of Blood Bowl is like. And if you're watching it and you're going, they've missed that, you win. Like, you genuinely get a point because you're like, I know that, I've missed that. Like, you don't take that as a point to be like, these guys are idiots. Take that as a point to go, my knowledge is really good. And I think that's awesome. If you watch what we're doing and you're like, oof, I wouldn't have done that. I would have done this here and gone around there instead. Like, feel good about
what we want.
that. We want you guys to be watching stuff and going like, ooh, I would have done that differently. Trips probably shouldn't have. Probably should have marked the ball there before blitzing with that Croxigor.
I did think that in my head, like recently. I can't remember what game it was, but it was definitely a game where I had this like tableau in my mind where I'm just like, I want other people to look at this and choose and I want to know what decisions another person would have made, because like in my head this was the best one, but I'm sure there's a better way out of this. And so I kind of want to know what that is. I do encourage people to look at these like especially the top-down ones, just pause it and then think just like, what would I do in this situation?
And it's an important point that we are not the top 3 Blood Bowl players in the world.
No,
We
far
are
from it.
quite significantly off that. So we are not going to make the right play every time. And this is a game with dice. And we've seen in every championship game that you can play the best way and the dice will play their own game. You can play loose and friendly and the dice will either
Reward
bite you
you.
or reward you, or probably do both.
Oh yeah, you'll see both, which I just think is wicked. I think it's I think it's been brilliant fun. It's been lovely seeing you guys every Monday, and I'm glad we've been able to rotate you out to give you a night off every now and again. I think that's important to keep energy levels up, because it's just been brilliant. And I've got to make a massive shout out and a thank you to everybody who watches live. because you know, if I was sat there literally like a judge at a Magic tournament in the Pro Tour watching the game, I would help the players call out, right, you got hit and run there, you've done this wrong, this is it. But my role is the cameraman and the chat interaction person. Like, I'm helping to show their game. I'm not adjudicating their game. I know sometimes when it goes quiet and there's an overhead shot and I'm talking, it's a bit snooker-like, but I'm not the umpire guy. There are no balls being polished in this studio. And you know, I don't want people to think, well, there's 3 people here, like you said, like they're getting this wrong, this rule wrong. Well, no, because when Trips is playing. When Ben's not playing because Trips is playing, Ben is either thinking about his next action or just checking in on his messages, like, or whatever, or chatting with chat. And when Trips is playing, I'm moving the camera around, try and guess where Trips is going to go next, so that I can have the camera lined up so that we can show the best action. And or keeping an eye on chat, making sure that Nightbot isn't just banning everybody for the lols, and that no one's being abusive or, you know, a problem. Most of the time, it's me just sniggering in the background at some hilarious comments put in there by chat. So it's...
And I don't think that we should underestimate. Well, we see it because you're sitting in the room, but unless you have tried to do these kind of things and detail, the ability to run the production of the stream and switching the cameras and making sure chat works and making sure everything's going right, it is not a simple case of just rotating around, pressing these buttons and details. There is plenty to keep you occupied, as well as an entertaining game to try and watch as well.
Yeah, I've made some of it a bit overcomplicated as well, because it's Ben space. So I'm like, oh yes, of course, that's just 9 on the keyboard. I'm like, I don't know how I'm ever going to devolve this to anybody to be the cameraman.
But you are sportscasting, production engineer, and director all rolled in one.
We need the telestration.
Yeah.
We need the telestrator up and about. But I'm hesitant to install it because I'm like, I don't want to ruin what we've got. No, but it's wicked. And I thought it'd be cool to talk about what we're doing, because I'm really enjoying it. And I said to you this yesterday, Trips. The Monday night thing is taking up all of my creative mental energy at the moment for the whole week, just because of where Libby is, because of how miserable work is. Like that's where my energy is going. So we've not got so many other videos going live at the moment. I'm hoping that will get better, but honestly, if we didn't have Monday Night Blood Bowl, there would probably be nothing going on at the moment on the channel because of life and work. So this is my ring-fenced time. Like, I do not work past 4:30 on a Monday, because I want to get the girls sorted so that at 7:30 I can be out here ready to stream. That's my ring-fenced time of the week, and I view it as something it's really important to me, and it's really enjoyable to me. I find it recharging. Which I think you said that, Ben. That's your kind of...
Yeah, the social battery in it gets recharged.
Wow, it's just creating something that I just think is really fun, and sharing it with a bunch of people. It's just wicked. So thank you for everybody who's commented or liked or joined us. If you can, it's so cool because people log on, and I know I hate on the Games Workshop preview videos because it's like, okay, let's join the thing, and then 27 minutes we're going to talk about where everyone's from, and then we're going to show a picture of a book. Well, actually, like, when you're doing the stream, it is really fun to see where everyone's from. And I apologise to the Warhammer people for that. Showing a picture of a book. All right. Maybe you can do better. But it's been a long time since a preview. And before we go, when are we due another preview? Is there another preview? Where are we? We're the end of July. We want one more Blood Bowl team this year. Currently, that means there's nothing coming out until September at the earliest. Trips, save us. Come on, what have we got coming up?
We haven't got anything coming and planned in detail, but usually there is a late August preview, and that previews... Well, we all think it previews September, but it actually previews October, November, and January releases. So I suspect we will be seeing
Gen Con. Do they do anything for Gen Con?
Oh yeah, usually they do something there.
Oh no, that's Thursday the 1st of August. That's next week.
Yeah, so there won't be any preview around that, because that would have been a preview would have been previewed and previewed 3 times
I
beforehand.
feel like it might have been. I feel like it might have been. All right, never mind. We'll just have to play Blood Bowl on a Monday and buy other people's stuff instead, like Necromunda and OPR.
Yeah.
Wicked. Right, guys. I think we'll wrap up for the day. Any more for any more before we do so?
Yeah, it's all good.
Fantastic. Well, thanks for coming on and chatting Blood Bowl again. And we'll wrap up. Thank you very much for joining us. We'll be back soon with more Blood Bowl content. Happy blocking. Oh, and on the podcast, I can actually press stop recording and it will stop recording instead of cutting me off. Thanks very much for watching. We really appreciate your support. If you want to support the channel even further, please like and subscribe. It really does help us out. Or come join us on YouTube Members or in Patreon, where you can get exclusive access to some content, some loot, early access to basically everything we do, as well as regular competitions. Or you can pick up some Bonehead Podcast loot either on our website at boneheadpodcast.com. We've got the Dungeon Bowl things, we've got tokens and stuff like that, or on our Spreadshirt site as well. Everything you do just helps us make more content and hopefully do it of better quality. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. Happy blocking.